The story broke with 6 words that reverberated across the United Kingdom: "She's crossed the final line." According to leaked audio, those were the alleged words of King Charles, spoken behind closed doors at Sandringham during what was supposed to be a confidential crisis meeting. The meeting began at 7:30 p.m. last Thursday. Present in the room, King Charles, Prince William, Queen Consort Camilla, and 2 senior aides. Phones confiscated, staff dismissed. The atmosphere, initially calm, grew tense with each passing minute. Then the leak. The voices unmistakable, now fueling what analysts are calling one of the most consequential breaches of royal secrecy in modern times. What was this about? Not a tabloid scandal, not a paparazzi photograph. Intelligence officials had intercepted communications between individuals close to Meghan Markle and an overseas journalist, and according to sources, the content wasn't gossip, it was dangerous. One intercepted phrase reportedly linked to isolating the Princess of Wales through perception management. In security terms, insiders call this a threat matrix. The gravity was not lost on the royals. A staffer familiar with the investigation stated privately, "When the word isolate appears in an intelligence file connected to a senior royal, it's no longer PR, it's security." The palace treated it accordingly. The codename assigned to the report, Red Line 14. Leaked audio captures a tense exchange. William, interrupting his father mid-sentence, is heard saying, "She's baiting us. Every move is calculated. If we stay silent, we look weak. If we respond, she plays the victim." Then Charles replies with a chilling assessment. "She weaponized Harry, and now she's weaponizing the institution." Those words set off alarm bells across Britain's intelligence and political circles. For the first time, Charles and William were not framing Meghan's actions as publicity stunts. They described them as deliberate, strategic, and escalating. A second layer of the leak revealed more. A folder handed to the king contained redacted documents, links to foreign lobbying, anonymous donations funneled into Meghan's public initiatives, and transcripts of messages involving 2 former palace aides who astonishingly were believed to have aligned with her team. One message contained a phrase that rattled even seasoned investigators: "He won't see it coming." Not from her. Outside the palace walls, the storm had already begun. On social media hashtags, Dr. Meghan Gate and Redline 14 trended for hours. Tweets speculated about a constitutional crisis. One user wrote, "If this recording is real, Charles has every reason to act. This is no longer optics, it's state security." Inside the palace, the decision was already made. According to sources, Charles uttered a line never before heard in public or private. "We've tried dignity. We've tried distance. She's not stopping. If this escalates, I will speak publicly, and I will not protect her this time." Those present described the king's tone as calm, unwavering, but absolute. Analysts called it unprecedented. For decades, Charles had resisted engaging in media wars. He endured storms in silence. But this time, silence was over. The leak did not end there. Queen Consort Camilla, according to one insider, pressed the urgency further. She's not just undermining the crown, she's trying to fracture it from within. Within moments, Charles reportedly picked up a secure line to the Home Secretary and delivered 6 words that sent ripples through Whitehall. "We need to invoke the protocol now." That phrase, "invoke the protocol," is no ceremonial line. Within palace security circles, it signals activation of liaison with national intelligence, a step taken only when an internal threat is judged to have crossed into matters of state. By late afternoon, MI5 was quietly placed on an information alert, and Downing Street sources confirm received a discreet briefing. From a palace meeting intended to remain in the shadows, the crisis had exploded into public view. With intelligence agencies now in motion, suspicion of infiltration inside palace walls, and Meghan's name at the center, Britain faces not just a family dispute, but the outlines of what some are already calling a constitutional emergency. And this was only the beginning. What followed in the leaked material was not rumor, but a chain of revelations that shook both the monarchy and the political establishment. The document that sparked the emergency meeting was more than symbolic. It came from a foreign ally, carrying transcripts of suspicious calls tied to Meghan's circle. This was stamped with a royal intelligence protocol rarely invoked, Red Line 14. The most alarming detail, the name of the Princess of Wales, surfaced repeatedly. Analysts say one intercepted phrase, "isolate her publicly through perception," was enough to trigger immediate alarm within MI6. A palace staffer later remarked in an encrypted chat, "When isolate appears in connection to a royal, it's no longer communications management. It's a potential threat." The tension escalated inside the meeting room. King Charles, according to multiple insiders, made a firm declaration. "This time, if it escalates, I will go public. I will not shield her." The calm but resolute tone marked a sharp departure from decades of royal protocol that valued silence over confrontation. A senior aide then delivered a redacted folder into the king's hands. Inside were traces of foreign financial channels linked to Meghan's projects, transcripts of former palace aides allegedly working with her, and one line that would dominate headlines for days. "He won't see it coming. Not from her." Royal commentators suggested he referred to Harry while her pointed toward Kate. Social media reacted instantly. One prominent account tweeted, "This is DEFCON 1 for the royals." Across platforms, speculation ran wild. Was Meghan attempting to orchestrate influence campaigns against senior royals? And more importantly, was she receiving inside information from within palace walls? The Queen Consort reportedly reinforced the gravity, stating she's not undermining the crown alone. She's working to fracture it from the inside. It was at that point Charles gave his directive. The words invoke the protocol now were interpreted by insiders as a signal to escalate the issue beyond palace discretion. By evening, MI5 and MI6 had initiated coordination. Whispers circulated of a back-channel briefing to the Prime Minister's office. According to sources, King Charles authorized the update himself. A quiet message delivered to Downing Street implied that the monarchy considered itself compromised at the institutional level. Political observers called it a constitutional risk unprecedented in recent decades. But the storm did not remain confined to Whitehall or the intelligence community. An anonymous tipster sent a document to a senior journalist listing names believed to be monitored for media manipulation. The list included 2 BBC producers, a Daily Mail contributor, and an American PR consultant recently flown into London. This ecosystem, a term used by Prince William in private, described the web of connections shaping narratives behind the scenes. Another revelation soon followed. Meghan was reportedly preparing a public appearance with an iconic charity tied to Princess Diana. Not with Harry, not with her children, but with a figure codenamed Wren. Analysts quickly clarified Wren referred not to a person, but to the Women's Royal Naval Service. The symbolism struck at the monarchy's historical core. "She's trying to fold our history into her own narrative," Charles is reported to have said. The leak continued to deepen. Calendar data from a private courier surfaced revealing packages bound for Montecito labeled OCU6, an intelligence code for optical counter-surveillance tools. The implication was stark. Meghan was either checking if she was under surveillance or attempting to detect spies in her own circle. A royal commentator summarized, "This isn't paranoia anymore. This is a chess match at the highest level." Meanwhile, inside Clarence's house, the silence toward Harry became deafening. Twice he called his father after learning about the meeting. Twice he was told the king was unavailable. In one private message later leaked, Harry admitted, "She promised me it would never get this far. I don't know what she's planning anymore." For the first time, insiders questioned whether Harry might become a witness rather than an ally. One royal biographer remarked, "It's no longer about defending her. Harry is seen as a potential liability or an asset depending on how he chooses." The public had seen scandals before. But never had the monarchy been forced into the language of intelligence protocols, constitutional security, and covert networks. The crisis was no longer framed as family drama. It had entered the territory of state survival. And just as the palace scrambled to contain this firestorm, a new voice entered the leak Harry's own. The second wave of recordings sent shock through both media and intelligence circles. A voicemail surfaced, allegedly left by Prince Harry himself. The voice, reportedly verified by area code and digital signature, said, "She's pushing for things I never agreed to. If this gets out, I'm finished." For observers, this was the first crack in the foundation. Analysts noted the tone, fear, not anger. Social media reacted with brutal commentary. Harry finally realizes he was just a pawn. Another user wrote, "He sounds scared. Not defiant, just scared." Former MI6 officer Jonathan Cole added fuel during a live interview, confirming that a signal anomaly had been detected near Montecito. Around the same time, the Sandringham meeting was secretly recorded. His conclusion was blunt surveillance may have been wider than anyone imagined. In Parliament, the pressure mounted. 2 MPs demanded an intelligence briefing stating publicly that this has crossed into national security territory. What had started as whispers of royal drama was now formally framed as a matter of state integrity. Then came the most explosive leak, yet the identity of an alleged mole inside the palace. Not a senior aide or an outspoken critic, but a nearly invisible figure, Eleanor Huxley. A former administrative assistant turned communications worker, she had quietly transitioned into roles tied to Meghan's charity appearances. But crucially, her palace security clearance had remained active through 2024, despite being flagged in an MI5 audit. Political analyst Rowan Kent summarized the shock in a tweet. "You're telling me Eleanor Huxley had clearance ties to Meghan's team and access to palace systems as late as 2024. That's not oversight. That's an inside job." According to leaked intelligence, Huxley had been passing sensitive information, encrypted summaries, travel schedules, even proposed talking points for Prince William's public appearances. This, insiders said, explained why Meghan's team often reacted faster than the palace to developing events. The revelations deepened with a leaked internal screenshot from February 2025. On a Slack thread tied to Meghan's charity initiative, Huxley's name appeared under a tag labeled Kate UN Speech, Potential Weaknesses. The implication was clear information from within palace walls had been feeding directly into strategies that targeted senior royals' public appearances. The reaction inside Buckingham Palace was one of disbelief. If she had someone inside for months, maybe years, one insider confided, the implications aren't dramatic. They're catastrophic. Across the Atlantic, the story took yet another turn. The FBI confirmed its involvement through quiet leaks to journalists. Officials admitted they had already been monitoring Meghan's digital channels after a separate breach weeks earlier. Cross-border communication involving British citizen data had triggered automatic federal alerts. An anonymous intelligence analyst told The Telegraph, "The overlap between the suspected mole's data trail and US-based servers lit up our systems. We're talking about encrypted messages time-stamped against restricted palace databases." The most damning piece, a decrypted voice memo dated April 28, 2025, attributed to Meghan's account. The line that stunned both MI6 and the FBI read, "If they think I won't use what I know, they don't know me at all. I'll flip Harry in a heartbeat if they push me." For many, that sentence marked a turning point. The crisis was no longer about image or influence. It was about leverage, about potential blackmail, and about institutional vulnerability at the highest level of the British state. At this point, palace staff went into full lockdown. Phones confiscated, backups scrubbed, digital trails frozen as potential evidence. Kate Middleton was quietly relocated under reinforced security. And King Charles' sources confirmed summoned 2 retired intelligence officers for what insiders called a final briefing. By midweek, a new codename entered the narrative Operation Sapphire. Traditionally reserved for terrorism-related breaches, Sapphire meetings had never before been associated with internal royal matters. Yet according to leaks, such a session had already taken place without Harry being invited. The Duke of Sussex reportedly discovered its existence only after the meeting concluded. Enraged, he demanded access to transcripts. None were provided. A royal aide told Sky News, at this point, Harry is either in the dark or part of the fuse, and no one knows which is worse. The monarchy had faced crisis before, but never a crisis where insiders, intelligence agencies, and global partners treated its internal security as a matter of state survival. And then a new voice stepped into the spotlight, a witness prepared to testify under oath. Her name was Lydia Mercer. A former coordinator briefly listed in early Foundation filings years ago, she had remained silent until now. Through her attorney, Lydia submitted a sworn written statement to U.S. federal investigators working alongside the UK's security review. And in that testimony, she confirmed 3 points that aligned directly with files already uncovered in the so-called contingency folder. First, Meghan allegedly directed her digital staff to archive every mention of senior royals in internal press trackers, with a special focus on Kate William and anything connected to medical travel or childcare routines. Second, copies of sensitive media briefs meant to be deleted after use were duplicated and labeled insurance. According to investigators, these parallel records were later found inside a secure drive. Third, a file tree contained the label Sapphire Prep. Lydia said at the time she assumed it was shorthand for a future campaign. Only after hearing of Operation Sapphire in the news did she realize the connection. Her statement read, "I was told these duplications were legal safeguards. I did not understand their sensitivity. Had I known, I would have refused." Within minutes of Lydia's statement going public, the palace shifted into what insiders called shield mode. All royal media engagements were suspended for 48 hours. No questions were taken from the press. Kate remained under reinforced private protection, and new reports confirmed that Harry himself would be asked to appear alone if necessary, before a restricted royal security advisory review. Analysts interpreted that as a signal he would be questioned without Meghan present. Social media erupted. One post read, "If Harry testifies separately, expect fallout. Titles funding security. Everything could be at stake." Behind closed doors, senior advisors presented King Charles with 3 emergency options. The first, a formal distancing order, excluding Harry and Meghan from any ceremonial or diplomatic roles until investigations conclude. The second, a security downgrade and possible relocation if data compromise is verified. The third, a title review, where the Privy Council would consider restricting or suspending the Sussex style within UK jurisdiction. None of these were small moves. Each would confirm what Charles had been heard saying on that recording: she has crossed the final line. The leaked audio reportedly ends with a haunting exchange. Charles' voice, steady yet shaken, declared, "We loved them. We gave them chance after chance. This time for the safety of the crown and the country we do not bend." And William responded firmly, "Then we hold." Whatever happens next defines this era. Observers noted the unprecedented tone. This was not a family quarrel. It was the monarchy positioning itself for survival. Commentators asked openly, would the king strip titles? Would Harry break ranks? And perhaps most crucially, were the so-called insurance files created to protect Meghan or to control those around her? At this stage, the crisis had reached levels no one could dismiss. International agencies were engaged. Security codes once reserved for terrorism had been triggered. And one truth became undeniable. This was no longer the saga of a royal couple in conflict with tradition. It had become a confrontation over national trust itself. But just as the palace braced for fallout, another set of discoveries landed, files buried deeper within encrypted drives. Files that would reveal the ultimate strategy behind the contingency plan. The final discovery came not in whispers, but in hard data. At 7:32 p.m. on July 15th, An encrypted drive tied to Meghan's former legal counsel was quietly entered into evidence, not in a courtroom, but in a secure MI6 cyber chamber. What investigators uncovered inside stunned even seasoned intelligence officers. The drive contained voice recordings, extracted backups of cloud messages, and one folder chillingly labeled "Contingency" for pressure. Inside dozens of clipped audio files, screenshots of sensitive palace communications, and one voicemail allegedly left by Meghan in March 2024. The transcript of that voicemail read, "I've held back, for Harry's sake. But if they corner me, I'll trigger everything I have. Kate's files, William's outbursts, even Charles's health rumors. Don't test me." The mention of the king's health, sources say, was what forced palace communications into full lockdown. Encrypted channels were sealed. Even the queen consort, for the first time, was denied access to certain systems. Analysts called it a red line no royal had crossed before. A political commentator summarized the moment in a viral post. "So Meghan has vaults of palace intel, saved as contingency. That's not insurance, that's leverage. MI6 better treat this like a national threat, not a PR mess." By dawn, news outlets confirmed that an emergency session had been held under the Sapphire Protocol. The Duke of Sussex, excluded from the meeting, erupted in anger when he learned of it afterward. Reports described a shouting match at Clarence House with Harry, demanding access to transcripts and aides refusing. As one insider told Sky News, "Either he's in the dark or part of the fuse, and no one knows which is worse." Then Lydia Mercer's testimony broke through the silence. Her sworn statement confirmed duplications, insurance copies, and the Sapphire prep tag. It validated the contents of the contingency folder. Within hours, the palace froze all public-facing duties, shifting entirely to containment. Behind the scenes, three stark choices remained on King Charles's desk: formally exclude Harry and Meghan from state roles, reassess their security status, or initiate a Privy Council review of their titles. Each option carried monumental consequences, not only for the family, but for Britain's constitutional order. The leaked recording from Sandringham ended on a note that captured the gravity of the moment. Charles's voice, described as steady, yet weighted, concluded, "For the safety of the crown and the country we do not bend." William's reply sealed the tone. "Then we hold." Whatever happens next defines this royal era. And so the crisis stands. Intelligence agencies on both sides of the Atlantic cross-checking evidence. Files marked as insurance reframed as potential blackmail. Harry facing the possibility of testifying alone. The monarchy bracing for decisions unseen in modern times. What began as a family feud is now openly recognized as a matter of national security. The questions remain: will the king act on the options before him? Will Harry break his silence under oath? And did Meghan collect those files to protect herself, or to wield control over the very institution she once joined? Tonight, Britain and the world wait for the next leak, for the next decision, for the moment that will decide whether this is the monarchy's greatest test or its defining fracture.